You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right. Oh, look at that. I'll tell you what, if there's a God, because it's Sunday, he's up there, he is twisting my melons today, I'll tell you. Every button I press is doing the exact opposite to what I want it to do. However, good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. Hello, welcome along to LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us well, we don't do these very often, but we're going to do a match review. So thank you for joining us and watching. Feel free to join in the chat, or if you are listening to us on catch up on your favourite podcast platform, whatever that is, thank you so much for lending us your ears. It is, of course, bonfire night. You could say that there wasn't many fireworks going off in down the KP on Friday, though. Wasn't that many today when Liverpool played Leicester in the women's either. Not a good weekend all round. But look, I'm going to cheer your weekend up now, ladies. Let's bring him in. The man, the myth, the legend, Brad. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Chris. Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Bit of a shock to the system. Leicester played football and didn't win, so I'm still absorbing that. But yeah, apart from that, I'm okay, mate. How are you?
Well, it's a weird feeling. I'm going to be honest with you, this losing, because I've not been used to it much this season. I should have been used to it because, of course, we would have equalled Bristol City's record from 1905. Dave will probably remember that. If we'd have won, I think we could have still been playing now, to be honest with you, and I don't think we'd have scored yet.
Yeah, it was not our greatest performance. That's putting it nicely, I guess. Yeah, it was one of them. I think for the first time this season, a manager came out and said, this is how we're going to play against Leicester, and actually stuck to it for 90 minutes. It was a very frustrating side. And I know there's some topics of discussion we're going to touch on tonight that maybe need to be looked at and addressed going forward for Leicester, because that was the first time I sat there, Chris, and I haven't had to say it yet this season, where I've sat there going, we're not going to score. We're just not going to score. And yeah, it took us to the 92nd minute to have a shot of any note on target. That tells you how well Leeds played and how bad we were. I never like to say, oh, it's just because we played badly we lost. No, we lost because we were bad and they were good. You know, you don't lose a game by you just being bad. You lose a game by being outdone by the opposition.
Well, to quote Sher, if I could turn back time, it was almost, and I think you said this, didn't you, on the post-match, Rodgers-esque almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 substitutes used when you've only got 5. Nothing changed except personnel, and nothing tactically changed. I was expecting Daka to go on, go 2 up front, get a bit desperado to get the first draw of the season and nick something. But yeah, it was a little bit Rodgers-esque. And I know we say that a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it really was. It wasn't something we got used to under Enzo. With Enzo, we always thought, he'll chuck on 3 players if he wants to. Rest some players, that's good. Or he's changing it up because we're not breaking them down. He's bringing on subs at half time to give us a different personnel, a changing play style. There's nothing. We just, how to say, don't change a winning side. Don't change anything like that, but change something when it's not going right. And I'm still asking the question, Maresca, what possessed you to not want to change things?
Yes. I mean, are we a victim of our own success? I mean, look, let's take put it into perspective, and it is disappointing. It was probably, to me, Leeds were the best team we've come up against. By even to me, than Sunderland. I think whoever finishes above Leeds are going to get promoted. But we've played 15, we've lost 2. We don't need to sort of press that panic button just yet, do we?
No, and even if we didn't go and beat Middlesbrough next weekend, I wouldn't want to push the panic button because, like you said, it's 13 wins out of 15, and it is sometimes. I think you'll probably put up the comment in a bit. Maybe it was the reality check that Leicester needed just at that point because it was getting a little bit too big for your boots sort of thing for Leicester fans, I think, to a majority of them. It's look, at the end of the day, you try and find positives from anything in football, and to the person in chat saying,
well, I was going to bring that up actually.
Yeah, well, I'll let that get. I'll let that. So, we're still 11 points clear.
Yeah.
Leeds celebrated out like they'd won an FA Cup and Champions League in one game. So it tells you how desperate they were to catch up to us. And Ipswich struggled against Birmingham.
Yeah.
Not
unlike Hull either. They celebrated that they'd won the FA Cup. But yeah, just to bring up PSF. Don't know who you support, PSF. I have asked the question. I think Leicester fans have misplaced confidence. If you really think you will walk the league, you were deluding yourselves. I'd love this guy to be a Man United fan. I really would. Look, at the start, Leeds. Okay, yeah, fair play. Look. I mean, it doesn't matter whether we walk a game or not, and if you, and obviously you haven't followed the channel, I wouldn't have expected you to follow the channel because at the end of the day, you're a Leeds fan. Why would you follow a Leicester chat? I understand you're coming in now, and you are welcome. You are most welcome. I said at the start of the season, we're not going to walk this. It's not going to be easy. We've virtually got a brand new squad. It looks like we're going to do what Burnley did last year, but they didn't go unbeaten the whole season. Every team has bad games. You had 3 of, your players, I think, were on strike at some of them at the start of the season. So let's not sort of get too cocky on one win here, Leeds. But I said at the start of the season, it is a tough league, and I would have been happy this season to have finished 7th or 8th. And I've also said in this show that, and I've got a Leeds friend, or a friend who's a Leeds fan. We both know Carl, who's a Leeds YouTuber. And I've said to both of those, that was the hardest game we've had all season, but we expected it to be. And yes, we haven't. All right, we beat Southampton 4-1. We beat Blackburn 4-1. So there's a couple of games that we've won convincingly. But those that we've won 1-0, we still only got only get 3 points for it. And I think you'll find we've still scored the most goals and conceded the least goals in the division, Brad.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some Leicester fans out there that are acting like we're going to walk this league, and I know tongue-in-cheekishly we have said it, and anyone who, and I understand, PSF, where you're a Leeds fan, why would you watch this channel on a regular basis? But anyone who knows us regularly, we say a lot of these things tongue-in-cheek when we say, oh, Championship's cakewalk, and then we have a laugh and a joke, and then we talk about the fact that it's not a cakewalk. I mean, you're a handful. You're a handful ahead of promoted teams. Do some maths, mate. We're 11 points ahead of yourselves. That's not a handful. That's a massive chunk. So maybe get yourself checked in a little bit with your chirpiness. You've just beaten us. Congratulations. You were our best opponent. And I'm not going to say you weren't, but given it all this and there, you're a handful. No, you beat us and you're still 11 points behind us. Well, Ipswich is second. It's automatic promotion. So what? I don't care for Ipswich. Couldn't give a monkeys what Ipswich do. Top two go up. You're still 11 points behind us after beating us. So no disrespect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still four wins off us. So check yourself first before you come in here saying chirpy Leicester.
Well, I just want to bring up. Where are we? Bear with me, caller.
I mean, saying we're a few points ahead of a newly promoted side, well, how embarrassing is it for you that you're behind a newly promoted side? Just putting it out there, PFF. I wind you up as much as you try and wind me up, mate. I'm a king at these games. I don't give a rat's ass. I'll say it how it is. You're behind a promoted side, so you're doing far worse than you should be.
I'm just looking. Now, this is what Jay, who's a friend of mine, said on a message to me today. I'm going to mute you, mate. Sorry,
I forgot to do it myself.
Okay. This is what Jay, he's a Leeds fan, and he messaged me last night, jokingly saying, like, how you doing, after you lost, and bit of banter, as you get, as I would have given it to him, don't get me wrong. And what he said here, because I said to him, you are the best team we've come up against this season. You deserve the win. You have a manager who knows how to get promoted, and whoever finishes above you this season will get promotion. And he messaged me back, I wouldn't say we deserve the win. You almost got a draw at the end. Now, if you have a comfortable lead at the moment, and I can't see you dropping too many points the way you were playing at the moment. So it's all about, which, eyes you look at. It was the toughest game we've had all season, but it was an established manager who's got out of that division twice before, also got relegated twice before. Let's not, I think it was twice he got relegated, maybe just be the once, against a manager who's, 15 games into his managerial career in this country and only 27 games into his managerial career, full stop.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I can only imagine that PSF has been viewing a lot of Leicester channels, or some Leicester channels that have been getting a bit smug and carried away. Again, you're at the wrong channel if you think we're going to sit here raging at your beaters. You're a freshly relegated side, just like us. You have the same expectations as we do this season, which is to get back up at the first attempt. And he's very right. We have sat here before we played you, before we lost you, and even now afterwards, and we'll be saying it in 5-10 games' time. It's still early days. You're very right, PSF. It is still early days. We're taking nothing for granted. But also, in the realms of expectation, if you'd have told any Leicester fan, even the most optimistic Leicester fan, they would have won 13 out of 15 league games, when there is literally only record-setting Reading that can hold a torch to that because of the points they ended up accumulating. It's going... I've just seen Highfield's comments. It's going to be a season where we're not expecting to win every game. We didn't expect to beat you last night, and Friday night, and we didn't. You know, we've played somewhat we didn't expect to be Southampton, but we did, and that's the joy to this division. You come up against a team you're expected to win, and they give you a struggle. I mean, we were talking about it before the Leeds game, weren't we? Rotherham, we only just beat. QPR, we only just beat. You know, and then we go and stuff teams that, you know, should have been giving us a run for our money and doing as well as Leeds did against us, and they didn't. It's the joys of this division.
Yeah. We played Preston, who were up there with us. We played Southampton, who were a relegated side with us, and we blew both of them away. We said before this game that these were going to be probably the hardest game we played this season so far. They are. Let me just give you some facts, though. If you think that, you know, you walked it or whatever, I mean, it was 10 goal attempts for Leicester, 11 for Leeds. We had 66% possession, you had 34. We had 693 passes, you had 360. We had 873 touches, you had 526. That said, the only stat that counts is the fact that you got one goal, we didn't get any. And I've got to say, fair play to your goalkeeper who had sweet FA to do all game. It still was about the 91st minute when he needed to make a save. And my God, did he make a good one? So look, well done to you. At the end of the day, we'll move on after this. But the bookies had got Leicester to be favourites, Leeds to be second, Southampton to be third. We're not underperforming on that, are we, Brad?
No, and to be fair to Leeds, second, third, it's like when we do a player rating, isn't it? You 6 and 7s, they're not exactly underperforming either. I know, but you know what I mean. We are where we're statistically expected to be, but no, I am not under any impression that we're suddenly gonna not just get promoted from this division, but we're then going to go into the Premiership and start challenging the top end of the Premiership for it. It's going to be a struggle when we go up with this squad, because we've even seen it in games that we've won that there is a lot they need to work on over the next, 30 plus games left of the season if they're going to go up not just as top two, but do well next season. But that's a problem for the future. That's not something we can do now. But we also have a young team, mate. Take Vardy out of the squad, and our average age is probably in and around the mid to low 20s. So yeah, we're all doing it. It's a great division to kind of learn your trade in a sense for these youngsters.
And Stoke said to us before we played them that they had that they had got a new team. I think we're trying to do it at the same time, mate. That they had got a new team. Well, so have we. We let half as many players leave at the start of the season as we brought in. So we haven't got anywhere near everybody saying, well, it's a Premier League team. No, it's not, because it's all players that we have brought in. You've made some good signings, Pero. Maybe, except for example, what's he called yesterday? He really did impress me. Jimmy Somerville down the wing. What a player he is! Overall, probably my man of the match if I had to include Leeds players in it. But so we're no different to everybody else. We've just had a very good start. And look, Leeds, you know what it was like from last season. It was such an awful bloody time last season that we are enjoying ourselves, because, like I say, if you'd have given us this at the start of the season, we'd have laughed at you. We'd have gone, what you're saying. So we're enjoying it. But well done, Leeds. You got the win. I think you probably just deserved it, because we only had the one attempt on target. I think you had about 6. But everything you're saying, you can say exactly the same about us as well. And we got £80 million in for the sale of 2 players. We only spent probably about 30-40 million maximum. So we had a lot of debts to pay off, shall we say. But what I want to do is now move on from the banter And this is what Rob. We all know Rob Tanner, friend of the station, comes on very regularly. Writes, was the Leicester City correspondent for the Athletic, and he wrote a bit in this weekend's edition. Leeds setback could be the reality check runaway Leicester need in the longer term. I've got to say, because I said right at the start when Hull beat us that it was probably, I was glad that we'd lost that game early and we'd got a game out of the way where we'd actually lost. And maybe, I think he's got a point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think we even said it, in the build-up to the game that, Leicester have been a bit fortunate, rode a luck against QPR. I mean, I still feel that had QPR not got a man sent off, we would have still found a way to have won that game. But Sunderland was a game where, again, okay, we had chances against Sunderland, so you don't know if they'd have scored. We might have gone on to score 2 or whatever, but you felt there was a little bit of an edginess around the Leicester City display. And we'll get on to one of the reasons I think we're struggling a little bit in recent weeks later on in the show. But I think it was needed because I think we kind of thought we were just going to kind of ride this wave of not bad play, because I don't think we were terrible against Leeds. I think Leeds were very well set up to counter us, and like I said, they were the first team to put the money where the mouth is, as the expression is, and actually turn up and do what they said they were going to do, because several teams have said that this season and not played the way they're going to, said they're going to. So, again, we did it during the game, we did it at the post match, we're doing it here now. Credit to Leeds for doing a number on us and getting the result they warranted. They warranted. I wouldn't say it was a hands. It wasn't like it was a one-sided affair or anything, but they definitely deserved to get the win out of both teams, if that makes sense. And yeah, I hope this is a little bit of bringing us back down to earth, because I think we were hoping we could just get away with it and find our form again.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far, and PSF, this is probably the sort of headline he's seen, and I would disagree with this, but Enzo coming out and saying Leicester played well and defeat wasn't fair. I don't think we played particularly well, and, Leeds didn't let us play well before anybody starts saying, like, you're always saying it's you that play badly, blah, blah, blah. I don't think Leeds, they didn't let us settle on the ball like a lot of... I hardly saw Vestergaard stood on the ball, and now normally most of the games, he gets the ball, he has a cup of tea, wait until before he passes it. He didn't get a chance to do that in this game. They came at it. So I couldn't agree with Enzo on that comment.
No, I couldn't either. Look, for the majority of it, what Leeds did well is they completely shut us out. And for that reason, we definitely didn't deserve to win the game. Do I feel like Leicester did or played poorly enough to have not warranted a point? No, I think minus the goal, we was very resolute. I think we cancelled out a lot of their work in the final third just as well as they did for us. Yes, I know they had 6 shots on target, but again, apart from the goal, and again, this was played Friday. Someone might need to refresh my memory. I don't ever remember a period where I was thinking, God, Leeds are sieging down a goal. They're going to score any minute now. I never.
2 good saves during the game, but apart from that,
yeah, exactly. Well, one of them was unfortunate enough to fall to the Leeds player to score. So, whilst I think Leeds fans would have, notably been more frustrated than us, I don't think there would have been too much to grumble about the attacking efforts of both sides to have said, yeah, Leeds had a few more chances, they were a bit more unlucky, but a draw's a fair result. I'm not, I that's just personally how I from what I remember of the game. And, some people might say, well, you're remembering a different game to me, but I can only go off my own memory, I'm afraid. But I don't think it was unfair at all in terms that we lost the game because they edged their chance and we didn't. So I think he's a little bit wrong there. Well, he is wrong to come out and say that.
We're going to come on to your team tactics in a second, and you're going to go through those. We need to get Brad's tactic board back. That's what it is. I've still got the jingle somewhere, but Asked if he thought about making more substitutions, Marqueza replied, "No, to be honest, I think the 2 we did were enough." Now, I just want to read what he said here because it's interesting. Where is it? Asked if he thought about making more substitutions, said, "No, I think the 2 were enough." Asked if he'd not even considered McAteer, who has provided energy and a goal threat this season, said, "No, because we were quite happy with the 2 wingers. They were creating dangers, and it would have been a change for change's sake." Now, I'm sorry, whether it's a change for change's sake, when you're 1-0 down and you're not looking like scoring, and in fairness, we weren't because we weren't troubling their goalkeeper at all. All right, whether you change the system or not, and you're going to come on to that in a minute, but even just changing a player, it just throws the defensive, the guy that's marking them off a little bit, enough to maybe cause a bit of confusion and maybe get a goal.
Yeah, if we're not going to make subs because he's afraid that it's just like for like, then what's the point in making any subs? Because how many times have we said that Vardy's on the bench and you bring him on and the defenders look at him going, "Oh God, it's Vardy." Yeah, it's like for like. We've not gone to up front. We've stayed one up front, but we know the psychological difference he makes and the way he plays. His style especially compared to Kelechi is, it's something that plays in your mind. And I don't buy the fact that, yes, look, Fatawu had another good game for me on the right. He was the most creative spark we had throughout the game, in my opinion. But why not put McAteer on? McAteer is or was the club's joint top goal scorer. He was on red hot form. He'd scored past Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. He might just be a winger, but he's going to have more drive about him. He cuts in more than Fatawu does. Fatawu puts a lot of crosses in, and I'm not disgrunting that. That's his job at the end of the day. It's the same with McAteer. His job as the winger is to try and put decent crosses into the box. But I feel like McAteer could have offered us something, even if it was 15 minutes. And he said, "I don't want to risk him because it's his first bit back." Play McAteer. Put Daka on for somebody and maybe go 2 up front, which we'll get to in a minute. But you know what I mean? You can't just say, "Oh, I didn't make them subs because I didn't want to make like-for-like subs." But you're doing that all season, mate.
Yeah. Because we haven't changed. And I'm going to say whether you've got a plan B or not. We'll come on to that in a second. But I just think if you're playing, in cricket, and I was watching England play Australia. I'm a sucker for punishment, I know. But there we go. Why do they change bowlers as often as they do? Because it confuses the bloody batsman. I'm not the world's most knowledgeable cricket fan by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're facing fast bowler A and you just hit him for 3 4s and a 6, and then they bring on fast bowler B, it's still a fast bowler, but he's not going to be the same, and it's going to be just slightly different. Or am I simplifying things too much here, Brad?
No, you're exactly spot on. You make a decision based on I am a bit of a cricket connoisseur, if you will. Like you said, somebody who bowls round the wicket, might fancy a left-arm batsman, and because he doesn't get the ball to go away from the batsman, he can whack him round the park. But then the other bowler comes on and he's right-handed, and he comes over the wicket, and they go, "Oh, yes, he might be a fast bowler, but this batsman doesn't like bowlers that bowl like that," and go into him and hit him on the pads and get him out of LBW. So it's exactly the same in any form of sport like that. I mean, if you're going to put on a striker who's going to sit at the edge of the box and run through your defence like Vardy, why aren't you changing your wingers? Yeah, one winger likes to stay down the wing. McAteer is a winger. He's just as quick, but he likes to cut in more than Fatawu. He likes to do this more. Mavididi, something we need to look at in January, is adding more depth on that side, I feel, because unfortunately for me, I feel like we get a bit zoned out at one side of the pitch, depending on where we're trying to attack now. Because Mavadidi had a spell in that second half where he could have, set up a table and a deck chair and everything and played a game of cards with somebody because he wasn't that involved. We felt such a need to go down just one side. So, make personnel changes. I mean, you were raving about these personnel changes when they were winning this game. So why hasn't he kept making it? I don't know. It was a very strange manager performance on Friday.
Do we have a plan B? Because all we seem to have at the moment is a plan A, but with and square blocks are still going in square holes. But that's the only difference. Yes, and it will make a difference. Like I've just said, bringing a winger on for another winger will confuse the defence for a bit. But do we seem to have a plan B?
I think there is a plan B, and this is why it baffled me so much on Friday, because if I bring you back to the Rotherham game, which was a fair few weeks beforehand, he made 2 changes at half time. And I'm not saying that now, that might not be the first time, but it's one that stuck in my brain. He made 2 changes at half time, and even though the formation wise it didn't change, the shape just altered a little bit because we were a bit more forward. We put on a bit more forward-thinking players. We weren't shoring up that midfield with the defensive-minded players. And not there's anything wrong with that, but we went a bit more aggressive, a bit more at them, and we got the win. And like I said, he has done that a few times this season, but that's one game that really stood out to me. And I feel like we do have a plan B, but I don't know if Enzo bumped his head on the way to the ground and forgot that he had a plan B, or maybe Brendan Rodgers had a brain transplant and really it's Rodgers, it's going to be like Scooby-Doo. We're going to pull off the mask and realise it's Brendan Rodgers back there. I don't know, because there's nothing I'd seen up until that game to say to me that Enzo isn't the guy that knows what to do when the going gets tough, because he's already proven he can do that with these substitutions and multiple substitutions. He's not afraid to take a guy off because, he's having a good game, but the situation of the game, maybe Leicester are 2-0 up, maybe they're getting down a certain side too much, so he wants to put Chowdhury on to be more defensive. He plays the situation of the game, and Friday, mate, was the first time this season I felt like our manager didn't know what he was doing.
Well, we're going to come on to a certain midfielder and the options afterwards, but that's the team there. Now, this is according to the BBC. PSF may tell us otherwise, but it says there that Leeds went 4-2-3-1, and that's our team. And I've got an arrow there because Ricardo, it's always shown as a 4-3-3, but we know, don't we, that Ricardo goes into midfield, but he's pulled when we're defending, he comes back to make it a 4, and it's worked all season. But my God, did Somerville keep him busy in that game? Do you think we could go for him in January? Sorry, PSF, if you're still with us. But yeah, tell me about the team. Go through your tactics, mate.
Yeah, so now we'll come on to the reason it happens in a while. Right? The mystery man, the man of the hour, if you will, we'll talk about in a minute. But the one thing that concerns me about this style of play at the moment is the personnel that was on the pitch to suffice the way Enzo gets the likes of Ricardo to play, because there is a very particular player that if you want, you can do it, and we'll talk about. I won't mention the options, but we'll mention him. It's this man on screen right now. See, like me and Chris work together all the time. Wilfred Ndidi. Wilfred Ndidi is a cog that Leicester maybe have just realised we underappreciate a little bit. And I know his transformation under Enzo has been brilliant. This central defensive attacking midfielder striker has come out of nowhere on his resume, and he's working wonders for us. However, and we'll go through the options later. I look at the options that Chris has on the board and that potentially could play in that position. I don't think any of them offer us the same collective as what Ndidi has. I think we have certain players on that board that can play very good defensive work and can break up play, but they don't offer much going forward. And in this team in particular, no, I don't wish to circle out players, but it's just by chance I get to use them as the example. Cassaday's very good at making runs forward and breaking up a high press. He's not the greatest at tracking back and getting back defensively, and that's not his role technically in this team with where he's positioned in there. But for me, this team works better having inverted Ricardos playing that style when they've got an Ndidi within 5 yards of them who can make a run and free him up. Because what I found on Friday was when you don't have Ndidi there, he's either got somebody too close to him or he's got somebody too far away from him. And what I mean by that is Ndidi's like that middle ground. He's your perfect filler to the sandwich, if you will. You know, whatever you have in your sandwich, that's Ndidi, right? And he's ready to drop back if needed and help out defensively, but give you an outlet. And this season, Ndidi is the guy who gets the ball after Ricardo maybe wiggles through the player. He doesn't even need to look up. He knows Ndidi's going to be 5, 10, 15 yards away. Wherever he needs him, he's going to be. With Cassaday playing instead of Ndidi, we didn't really get that. Cassaday looks a little bit lost as to trying to figure out his actual role in this team, because I found it very strange at times that he was practically hugging the touchline with Fatawu. And there was a big gap in that middle that we missed. And that was you could look at that gap on the pitch and think, God, Ndidi would be running through that right now. God, Ndidi would be asking for the ball right there. He'd be in that little circle of empty grass waiting for the ball. Ricardo would have an outlet. Instead, for me, Cassaday, and there's others, I'll throw the examples out when we go through them as to why I think they're not quite the work in progress for when Ndidi is away, because he will be, won't he, Chris? Whether we like it or not, he's going to be away for at least 6 weeks, maybe more if he either comes back injured or jet lagged. So we're going to have to find a way to deal without Ndidi in that midfield. And I don't think certain players are the answer, because I think we've got either one or the other. And I think we need to find ourselves a player or start working on the training ground on getting one or two of these players to be able to do both roles like Ndidi, because there was that gap on the pitch was missing an Ndidi running through it all game. It really was.
There's the options that we have at the moment.
See, I'm going to go through this as to pros and cons as to what they give us and what it is. Hamza Chowdhury will run around like a blue arse fly. He's very passionate. He's very aggressive in a good way. All right, we remember that certain tackle on a Newcastle player, but over the years he's got a lot more maturer, and he's brilliant defensively. My only issue is once he gets over that halfway line, he hasn't got it about him. Now, he's still fairly young. When I say fairly young, I think he's about 25 now. I could be wrong, but he's still got a chance to be asked to change his game up a little bit, learn a new role, and maybe become like Ndidi has this season. But for me, we've got one end of the scale, and you've probably got two options of each, because Dennis Pratt, for me, is the same. Now, when we first signed Dennis Pratt, we were under the impression he was this attacking midfielder that was going to challenge Maddison and a certain Mr. Villa substitute bench warmer Tillemans for their roles on the pitch. You know, he was going to be this ball-to-ball, box-to-box playing midfielder that was going to be able to run the show and be one of the main cogs in that midfield. And due to injuries, due to personnel fallout, we haven't really had a consistent run with Dennis Pratt in the team. And when we have had a little bit of a spell with us, for me, again, he lacks the talent, maybe, for lack of a better word. He lacks the ability to be able to go from a midfielder to an attacking midfielder. So we've got someone who will break up the lines in the middle, Chris, and we have somebody who can get back and do the defensive duty, but then we lose that body in that final third, like I was saying with Ndidi. And then you've got Cassaday, who I've feel really bad for because I've butchered him already, but he seems to know kind of where to stand in an attacking sense, but not always, because he likes to drift wide, and that raised a few eyebrows for me when he kept practically like Castagnet and FaZe last season. He was up, Foster was rear end for some of the games. I was like, why is he there? Get in Ndidi's space. And I said that, Chris. I said, get in Ndidi's space. That's why you're on the pitch, to be there. And he wouldn't get there. And he can't come back and defend. He just can't do it. The only one there that I have a question mark about, in a good sense, is Yunus, because he was a winger that played more impressively for me in that number 8 role. And I think had we had the option to play him for the last 2 games and he hadn't got that injury, we might not be talking about a defeat. I mean, maybe I'm talking about my arse and just saying it, but he gave me early signs that maybe he's the player that when indeed he's not fit to play, or he's suspended, or he's away on AFCON duty, we might just have him there. So he's the only one that I maybe, don't feed to the fishes, as they say. I might be holding back, saying, no, you've still got time to show me you might be able to do it, because he's quite good at both roles from what I've seen of him. And that, if there's anybody I feel that still has a chance to show me that he can step into out of Ndidi's shadow when it's needed to be, it might just be Yunus.
He has played in that central role already. Sorry, that was me. I was thinking, because I didn't know whether you knew I was going to start talking. So I thought, I'll mute. If I mute and you unmute, that could work. That could work. Yeah, he's already played central. I don't know what game. It was the last one before he got injured. So we know he can do that. Cassidy, look, like you say, he's young. He's still learning. But I think Yunus is the one that's shown us, like you said, that he is possibly the replacement. I can't see us keeping hold of Pratt. His contract runs out at the end of the season. He is a bit of a sick note, and I think we've got to accept that. I think even me, and I like him, we should let him go. And Chowdhury, I mean, he's a defensive midfielder. Why bring him on when he did? When in fairness, we were already down. I think. When did they score their goal? On 58 minutes. So on 67 minutes, he takes off Cassidy, who is an attacking based player, with Chowdhury, who's a defensive based player. I don't get that. Muted. You're muted.
No, I didn't understand it either, and I know this might sound a bit weird, but if you was going to do anything with Chowdhury, what you would have done with Chowdhury is you'd have taken Cassidy off, you'd have put Chowdhury in Ricardo's role, and you'd have moved Ricardo out to where Cassidy was playing, because Cassidy clearly wasn't being entrusted with the Ndidi role. I mean, you can see it there, folks. You see that up the top, between the midfield, it's like a massive circle. That's the gap that Ndidi was filling, and the way Chris has designed it shows it perfectly, because that's where Cassidy was. He wasn't pig in the middle. We missed the middleman. We missed him. And if you're going to stick with that structure, because Cassidy, you don't really want him in the middle or whatever, and you want that extra body on the other side to kind of balance our wings, that's fine. But I think put Ricardo out there and put Ndidi and put Chowdhury on then. That would have made sense to do it, but he didn't do that. And that's the most baffling thing, because for a man who's made some wicked tactical changes and some wicked substitute changes throughout the season, it just baffled me how he didn't look at that situation and go, I've got a right back that's an inverted winger and can play a winger, because he only needs to look at past games to know that he can play as a attacking winger. I'm not going to take him off because he's really good, so I'll shove him in Cassidy's position and put my defensive midfielder in that role, because he is essentially a cover right back, isn't he, this season as well? So it's not like he doesn't know how to do that both roles. That would have made a lot more sense doing that.
And I know you wanted to bring it up, so I'll give you the chance to now. 2 up front, do we need to... I know this is an old thing, and I don't think it's particularly a favoured choice of Enzo. But I know you wanted to discuss two up front.
I think it's got to be an option because in a few weeks' time, we're going to have Tom Cannon available to us. He's not that far off being back. We're also going to, we've also got a young Will Alves coming in. Now, I know that's a midfield option, but again, he's somebody who, if you've ever watched the under-21s, he's very confident in his own ability to drive forward. Now, whether that maybe solves the Ndidi option, but you're going to have to start having these plans in place to potentially mix it up because, like Ndidi, in the winter, we're going to lose Iheanacho as well. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, yeah, and you're going to lose Daka. I mean, unless he's going to get picked for the sake of being picked, I don't know, because he's not played. I mean, he might still go, he might still go to the AFCON, but we're going to need to find a way to utilise our width. And I think the one thing that we really have missed in a few games and gotten away with until Leeds on Friday night was they were able to cramp us up. QPR cramped us up in that attacking third, and so did Sunderland. And Leeds did it in a way where we were very isolated when we was getting it out wide and getting all excited because Fatour and Mavididi had the ball. We then suddenly realised that Leeds had 6 players back to our 2 in the box.
Yeah.
You put a striker up there, you give chances to Ndidi, to Cassidy, to Dewsbury Hall, or whoever's in that midfield area, or how many of them are in there, to get up to play, to give you that extra bodies. Look, Tom Cannon's not going to become a third choice striker behind, Vardy and Iheanacho. I'm sure he'll get his run when Iheanacho's away because of, we've not seen anything of Daka and that. But maybe, I don't know, Chris, maybe, and we're just speculating that Daka might not go on AFCON, but even if he does go, maybe you want to start making sure you're finding a way to give him 20 minutes every so often when he's coming back to fitness. I'm not saying you have to go 2 up front, but how would Leeds have felt if instead of Vardy going off and Iheanacho coming on, they'd have gone, oh crap, we've got a guy with twinkle toes who can come and get the ball short and he can play it in behind the guy who's going to run his knackers off and stretch the defence. I think we need to have it. And he did do that in a couple of games, didn't he? All right, it was only for 5 minutes, but he did have 2 strikers on the pitch. So, yeah, I think we seriously, starting with Middlesbrough, look to get 2 strikers on the pitch during the game at some point.
And I got to say, stop it.
You've unmuted me again. Stop it.
Unmute. You unmute. There we go. Stop it. So Brad is so good he says everything twice. Or I'm so good I say everything twice, whichever way you're hearing it. And that was the problem, is that every time we had an attack and every time there was a ball ready to be crossed in, nobody was in the box giving the strikers that option. And we'll come on to player ratings in a moment, but KDH was kind of off the pace this game as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. See, there's the magic unmute finger. Yeah, he was. And you know what? It wasn't the first game. Yeah, don't you dare. It wasn't the first game, though, that Dewsbury Hall's been off the pace. And look, I don't want to speak for somebody who I don't know, but I think maybe just a little bit, he's put a bit too much pressure on his own shoulders because he came out, didn't he? And look, I love enthusiasm. I really do. It's a great trait to have, but I think sometimes you can be the maker of your own downfall because he came out and was like, I want to be the best player in the Championship. I don't just want to be the best player for Leicester season. I want to be Team of the Year. I want to be Player of the Year. I want this. I want that. And again, ambition's great. Being enthusiastic about yourself and backing yourself to the hills is all for it. But I think what we've been seeing recently with Dewsbury Hall is when he's not been able to put in good performances, it's got to him. And I think there was certain chunks of that game, Chris, and again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone's going to shoot me down for saying this in the comments and say, how dare you speak this way of my beloved KDH? And I'll take it on the chin. But I think at some points in that game against Leeds, we said this about a certain Yuri Tillemans. I don't mean it in the same way as in no effort on the pitch, but I forgot he was playing.
Yeah.
I didn't realise he was still on the pitch.
100%.
You know, and I think maybe he needs a few bench appearances, if you will, as we used to say about players like that.
No, my job. I thought exactly the same. There was time thinking, oh God, I forgot he was on. Who is that player? And he has set himself high standards. So you know, let's say it's one game, but we're looking at that game. So, but what we're going to do now is have a very, very short 20-second break, and then we will be seeing what Brad thinks of all the players' performances and see how many he actually agrees with Jordan from the Leicester Mercury with.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Foxes faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
for all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Indeed. And as Andrew says here, it's not down to KDH. The whole team never turned up. We're not having a go at KDH, but as we look at the team and we look and say, right, we happen to be KDH we were talking about, and maybe he was a victim of his own success in that he's been having such good games that when he has a bad one, we tend to sort of notice. You could also say, did Vardy do anything at all? So there's a few players, but we're going to find out exactly now what Brad thinks of all the different players, because he is going to go through them and compare them to Jordan Blackwell on Leicestershire Live, which I always enjoy doing because they very rarely agree. I reckon I'm going to go for 5 that they will agree on this week, having had a look at it. We'll see how I do at the end. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to read out Jordan's first?
I want to go first so I can get angry at Jordan justifiably later on. And PSF, you are right. He is a defender, and he was our best player. But that's a spoiler alert. But I don't think that's an obvious spoiler alert if you watch the game. Sorry.
Right, so Matt.
I'm going to give him a 7. I think he was very unfortunate with the goal. Made a great save. It happens. Goalkeepers union. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on a show before, Chris. So if you're new, this is new. I'm a former goalkeeper myself. I actually came out of retirement to play 6-a-side and in a winning game. But don't tell everybody.
Oh no. Oh no.
No, you're not, really.
I know. Shock horror. Brad's a former goalkeeper. But yeah, I don't think he did a lot wrong. I think his distribution was good. He had a few shaky kicks, but nobody's perfect. And again, he was one of them for the goal. He made a fantastic save, and it fell to the Leeds player who reacted the sharpest. And apart from conceding the goal, I think he did very well.
So you're giving him 7?
Yes, I'm giving him 7.
7, okay. So let me write these down, Jordan. Okay, so what Jordan said was there were a few risky passes early on, partly because he expected his teammates to be more awake than they were, and the long balls didn't always work. Made a couple of good saves, including in the build-up to the Leeds goal, and he gave him a 6.
Grow up, Jordan. It's a 7.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping that one day. I'm just doing this because I'm hoping one day he sees me rip into him and he goes, "I want to come on that show, Chris. I want to have a word with Brad." That's all we're doing there.
At 6-7, it's, swings and roundabouts, isn't it? We did just mention him. Let me press the right mouse. Mr. Piera, Ricardo himself.
Yeah, if you watch the game, this doesn't come as much of a shock. By far and away our best player. Creatively, defensively, effort-wise to a degree. And I know we lost, and I don't usually do this when we lose. And I'm sure I'm going to be effing and jeffing at a certain Mr. Jordan in a second. But my man of the match for the performance. Spoiler alert, everybody was hoping I'd save it for a rainy day. I'm not. I'm going to give him an 8. I think he was the one player that could argue I didn't deserve to be on a losing team. Not that he would, because it's not our mentor and it's not his mentor at all. But the way he performed, he didn't deserve to be sat at home going, I've just lost a game of football.
Well, it was also my man of the match, although we will come along to the official man of the match for Leicester Till I Die at the end. Jordan gave him 8. He said, are you all right there, Brad? Can you hear me? Somebody down 999. He's fallen out the window. City's star man on the night. The Portuguese stepping up with a brilliant showing. He made superb sliding tackle early on to bail out Faz and then continually made important intervention to prevent further Leeds chances. He was calm on the ball too. Wow.
Me and Jordan must have been drinking in the same household, which is scary because I don't remember seeing him knock on the door and come in.
We can do 8. Sorry, just catching up there. Okay. Well, Faz.
Didn't see him try forward a lot, which is something I was used to seeing with Woutface. I thought he was that out of the pairing, he's been the outlet that kind of gets us a bit forward going from that defence. If Winks is still high up the pitch, he used to get I'm very used to seeing Woutface get the ball and drive forward with it. So I do feel a bit bad here, but I was a bit disappointed I didn't see more of that from him. And again, that could be tactical. It sounds like it was something that was instructed by Enzo, which then maybe begs the question, why didn't you play Cody? Because that's the sort of player Cody is. But I have to give him a 6. I don't think he did a lot wrong defensive-wise, but some of the extra qualities that we're used to seeing from Woutface, I didn't see it. I don't remember seeing at all on Friday, so he gets a 6 from me.
Andy also agrees. He actually gets a 5 from Jordan, so 5-6. Yeah, thereabouts. A poor pass was very nearly punished in the opening stages, and Pro did seem to have the beating of him in 1-versus-1 situations. He's just rounded that up with saying not his best night. Okay, so well. Whole of the season contender, and just be careful what you say here, Brad. I have the power. What are you going to say about Yannick?
Chris's love child, Yannick.
Wait till later on.
Yeah. Wait till Iheanacho comes up and he's getting a perfect 10. Yeah. But no, again, didn't do a lot wrong defensively. I think he was very sound on the ball. Again, he maybe missed the presence of Ndidi, and like Jordan said, I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, but is about with Madsen getting caught on the ball a little bit. I think sometimes Yannick felt a little bit like his teammates were half asleep around him because they weren't moving as well as they had done for him before. I think we lacked a lot of energy for that, and unfortunately, I can't really score him more than I can his centre-back partner, which is a 6. And off I go. Chris is going to kick me from the stream. See you later.
You're lucky. It's a yellow. It's not a red. It's a yellow. Jordan says he was forced into long balls early on, and very few of them came off. And that's what I said earlier, that you never saw him doing that, standing on the ball and saying, right, what am I going to do with this, that he normally does. And there was none of those sort of 20 passes, me to you, with Harry Winks. In general, the Dane wasn't quite as good on the ball as he can be. Defensively, he was solid enough, and he gets a 6. So he agrees with you. So that's two so far. All right. James Justin, we were begging to have him back. The injury to Doyle means we've got him regularly. Your thoughts on his game?
Disappointing one for me, because I think sometimes, and again, maybe this is tactically, so I feel a bit bad here. You can only go off what you see though. And from what I saw of him, he did seem aggressive going forward. I think a few times he was caught out of position, didn't know whether to stick out wide or come in. And he left Mavididi a little bit high and dry in that support role that he's supposed to be offering on that side. I think he's actually a little bit fortunate that Doyle's out for as long as he is, because I think he'd have his place being looked at under a microscope after his performance. I'm probably going to scarily be close to Jordan here unless he's seen a different game. I'm going to go one more than what Andrew's just given. I'm going to say no. You know what? I'm going to agree with Andrew on this one. I was thinking 4 or 5, and I think he was that bad. He really wasn't that good. I'm going to give him a 4. I think he's very right to give him a 4.
Wow. He was guilty going backwards a little too often in the first half, says Jordan, and that sometimes frustrated the crowd. But defensively, he was pretty good and made one excellent tackle inside the box. And I must admit, I remember that he did. He gets a 6 from Jordan, so he's a little bit more generous than you are. Not as horrible as Mr.
Get out of his arse, Jordan. He's not your mate.
Was that one of the Mr. Men, Mr. Nasty? Because if it was, I think we've just found him.
Well, maybe I was probably felt like the Simon Cowell of judges there, but he had a bad game. You can't give him a 6 when he played bad. For me,
Mr. Winks.
Wasn't his best game. I think he is missing his midfield buddy in Ndidi. I think he is. I think he's still not got used to how it works and links up with Castagne, because I was watching the Fulham game. He's stuck in my mind. Cassidy. I don't think he's quite gelled the way he has instantly with Ndidi. But still, he has that Mr. Reliable tag, and he was still very reliable. Something that's always been said about him, I would have liked to have seen a bit more forward thinking from him. I was really hoping that goal against QPR would have given him the confidence to maybe have at least had a shot or two from the edge of the box when the opportunity arose. Not that Leeds offered much, to be fair to them. I was a little bit disappointed with him, but not much. I always say he's Mr. Reliable. He's that unsung hero in that midfield at times. I don't think he had a bad performance. It wasn't one of his most enthralling performances. I don't do things by half, so I'm going to say it's a 6.
Well, you've gone for 6 there. Andrew's gone for 6.5, being the awkward spot that he is. But we don't do 0.5s, by the way. Andrew, so you've been demoted to a 6 so that you agree with Brad. He was another to have a slow start, but he found his feet. He ran the show. There was so many times when he read the play expertly to get the ball, escape his marker and charge into space. He looked determined to get City back into it, but it wasn't to be. 8 from Jordan. Ooh, so a big difference.
Jordan, did you get hold of some Jamaican Woodbine when you was going through these ratings, mate? Because I think they're a little bit too high. for these ratings. See, I did that.
It's the way round.
Well, I'm just being brutally honest. I don't think his glasses are blue tinted. I think he sprayed them blue because.
But no, usually you're higher and he's a hell of a lot lower. But look, I'm dreading this one, but I have a feeling you might agree.
Very strange, because yet again he showed us small glimpses of what he's capable of. But what was he doing out on the wide right? He was on, in my opinion, from what I thought he would be doing. I expected him to do that Ndidi role, run between the halfway line and the edge of the box, patrol that, give support to Dewsbury Hall and Winks, and he just, again, it seems tactical, because it wasn't like Enzo was screaming at him to get over to the middle. It wasn't like he was being, he was told he was doing it wrong, and he certainly didn't get dragged off until it was a bit, near the end of the game. So I'm going to have to give him a 3, because I barely remembered him being on the pitch. In fact, until he came off, I actually thought he was coming on as the substitute, because Cassidy, why are you playing him out there? I don't know. And this rating is on his performance. I don't think he's a right winger or an inverted right winger or whatever you want to call it, but he certainly shouldn't be playing in that position, and he certainly didn't pull up any trees.
Whoa.
Shit is about to go down.
Shit is about to So, you've given him 3. And I've scrolled down much too far. But Jordan, he looked completely overwhelmed by the big occasion. The game largely bypassed him, and when one good chance did fall to him inside the box, he messed up his touch. He lost Jorginho for the Leeds goal too, and he gets a 4. So 3-4, yeah, it's 1 and 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Cassidy got 2. Wow, Andrew, that is harsh.
I mean, it is, but it's not too much further off the way he played, really. And again, I feel really bad, because that's clearly not a position, a positional of his game that he should be playing, and he clearly can't play as a wide midfielder, which is technically what he was. He was more of a wide midfielder than a centre midfielder, and it really didn't work out at all for him, because he just barely had the ball, and when he did, he was probably one of the only players I could say every time he touched the ball, your head were in the hands thinking he's going to mess this up somehow, and he didn't have the greatest of game. And again, Enzo has to take some of the responsibility for that, but yeah. Oh dear.
KDH.
Well, if you think it's going to dramatically improve, I'm going to disappoint you. For a few weeks now, he's not been anywhere near the Dewsbury Hall that ran the show for the first 5-6 games of the season. And Dewsbury Hall had 2 goals against Coventry, full of confidence. He was having great efforts. He was creating great chances. He was assisting. And for the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's gone a little bit off the boil. And this was probably a low point in his career for performance and effort-wise, because he did not showcase anybody. And this is why I wanted to talk about not having Ndidi in the side and how it clearly much is affecting us, because Cassidy, not so much Winks, but Cassidy and Dewsbury Hall needed to step up and just be able to show the gaffer, doesn't matter if Ndidi's gone, I can do it, boss. I'll be your man when he's not there. And I'm going to give him a 5. I know. I think a few ratings are, well, not PSFs because he's a Leeds fan, but I think Andrew's maybe given him a 6 because he's Leicester, through and through, and he came through. I think we've been a bit soft on him there. I think that was one of his worst performances this season, because again, he went missing during spells. So he gets a 5 from me.
Have you played too much this season?
Possibly, and maybe if Eunice is available for Middlesbrough, or Pratt, and indeed he's back. If these players are back, maybe we need to turn around to Cassaday and KDH and say, go and rest. I know there's a bloody international break, shock horror, but go and have this game off. I'm going to give these guys 70 minutes, maybe the full 19, whatever, and work on something on the training ground, because something's not working with Cassaday, and something feels a little bit burnt out about Dewsbury Hall. And we said this last year, didn't we, Chris? Funny enough, not to sound too Brendan Rodgersy with Enzo here, but we said this about him when Brendan Rodgers was manager. We need to be careful because he's going to burn him out. And he burnt out last season. We look how that went for him. And if Enzo's not careful, he's going to burn him out. So, yeah, it's a 5 that I think could have been avoided had he maybe not played against QPR or Sunderland or one of them two and got a bit of a respite.
Well, Jordan says he was a little slow early on, but he warmed up and started to pick up good positions in the Leeds half. He wasn't as influential as he usually is, but he nearly bagged a late equaliser, only to be denied by a superb Meslier save. And he gave him 6. Like we say, 5, 6, potato sort of thing. And look, yeah, it had that header gone in at the end and your goalkeeper not been as good as he was, who knows what would have happened. But I got to say, it's a sign of a good goalkeeper that you have nothing to do all game. And then when you are called upon towards the end, you make a great save like that. So fair play to Mesler. Now then, Abdul, Mr. Fatawu.
The guy is Duracell Bunny, because he just never seems to tire. He ran up and down, inside, cut across. He is a talent. And I know I've said this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but if you say to me right now, Brad, Leicester are guaranteed to sign one of your loanee players, but you can only have one. The rest, no matter how good they are, no matter how much you think, they've got to go back and you can't have them. This guy's the one I'd pick every day of the week. And I know you could say, okay, Doyle's injured and Eunice hasn't played too much. It's a bit hard. But if you said right now, pick just one of them, Abdul Fatawu, it's going to be the closest we get, Chris. I won't say his name, but I'm on about it. This guy has the potential to be the closest we'll ever get to replacing a player on that side of the field. With what he can do, Chris, he runs the tight line. Yes, he has a bit of miscontrol and sometimes the ball gets away from him, but he is absolutely brilliant. And Leeds kind of sucked the energy out of the last 15 minutes and he died off a little bit near the end, and that happens. Was it Meatloaf that sang it? You took the words right out of my mouth, because Andrew, I was going to give him, I was just about to say 7, and he gave it right. Fatawu was, one of the few that stood out in that game, and get the contract, because I want him in a Leicester shirt for well, I'm not saying for 5 years, but I'd give him a long term. I'd do a Chelsea, give him an 8-year contract, man. Give him an 8-year contract. You know what I mean?
I agree. If we're going to sign any of, and we've got, it's Doyle, Eunice, and Abdul. They're the 3 that I think we've got on loan.
And Cassaday. Yeah.
Eunice and Abdul, as far as I understand it, we have got options to buy. Does that, if you get an option to buy, does that mean that you have the first option?
No, so basically Leicester struck a deal with Sporting and is it Galatasaray? We got Eunice from, I can't remember, someone tell me to confirm. And basically, from what I understand from, I think it was even Rob Tanner, well, I say collectively, when it's normally released by Fabrizio, they all pretty much retweet the same thing. And I think that Leicester have essentially said, we will pay, I think it's 14 million. It might be a bit more. I know one of them's definitely 14 million. For argument's sake, say it is 14 million. We will pay them 14 million if he plays 60% of this season, and that includes coming off the bench. He doesn't have to start. He just needs to play 60% of the games and maybe some other little bit of details. And if he does that, then Leicester will have to pay that money. But that's then like on Leicester. If they think he's good enough, we get him for a steal at 14 million. Play him for. He looks like he's going to get that playing time the way he's been played so far this season, Chris. So I think there's a few things, but what it basically means is if we meet them requirements, the obligation. Exactly what Nate said. So 17 million. I knew one was at least 14 and maybe one was higher.
Well,
but if he does
euros,
I think so. So about 14 million, probably for 15 million our money. So Chris, if he plays 60% this season, Leicester are obligated to pay that that fee for him, and no one can come in and steal him away from us if we go.
That's the point I was going to ask. Because as good as he's been. And just to say that Jordan said he was poor in the early stages, but offloading the ball quickly enough that once Byron was booked, he came alive and tormented the fullback, getting close to a spectacular goal. He was City's biggest threat in the second half too and created a couple of good chances. Gave him a 7. There was a 7. He's agreed with you there. But my worry is that, he could play in the Premier League now, couldn't he? And he would... you know what clubs are like, especially sort of Chelsea. They'll be sat there thinking Arsenal, like, hey, we can nick this if we want to. So that was my worry.
Yeah, from my understanding of how the loan agreement is that if Leicester, if he meets or Leicester meets, depends how you want to word it or read into it. If he does play 60%, then Leicester are basically told, okay, he's played 60%. Do you want to sign him? Yes, we do. Okay, then we'll take the agreed price that we had with you. Nobody can come in and say, we'll pay you 30 million. No, Leicester are obliged to then pay the money. So if he ends the season and he's played 59% of the games, then sure, someone can come in for him. But if he plays 60% or more, Leicester have to pay that money for him. That's basically Leicester going, yes, we want him. And I'm sure Sporting, if that does happen, will be kicking themselves because I really do think he has that potential to go and play in the Premier League, and hopefully he will with us.
Exactly. You've answered that for me. So I'm going to ask you another question. Had we signed Lookman, would we then have still gone out and got Fatawu? And I know it's all ifs and buts and maybes and what have you. But if let's say we'd gone and 50 million for whatever it was, 50 million, I think it was, for Lookman, signed him, therefore we don't need Fatawu. Who's the better player is basically what I'm saying.
Oh, that's very difficult because you're talking about another loanee that I had a very big soft spot for, and I really was gutted that we didn't make his move permanent. We know why now, we understand why, and that's fair enough to a point, but it was a bit like, what a player we had for our grasp, because he could play up front. He scored goals for us. He was played up front a few times by the bell end. I still think we would have signed Fatawu for 2 reasons. We signed Yunus and Fatawu because we needed a player on that side and we needed a backup. And Fatawu's 19. I think Enzo would have gone, okay, I've got Lookman, but I need me backup. I need competition for that side. I need a bit of quality and depth. I need somebody that if it's not going well, is going to offer me something else and I can put him on. Or if Lookman's injured or suspended, I've got that player. And I think he would have. I think he would have been on the radar, and I think he would have signed him over Yunus. And I'm not saying we won't sign Yunus. I still like him for what I've seen of him. But in that regard, with the scenario you thrown out to me, yes, I would have said he would have signed Abdul and maybe not gone for Yunus. I don't know. Because he's also a future. If Lookman would have come here, got us promoted, done whatever, and in 3 seasons get snapped up by Inter Milan or somebody like that, or where he's gone to now. I forget where it is he's gone to. I think he's at Atalanta. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But we'd have then had a ready-made replacement in Abdu. So, yeah, I think we would have signed him, and he has the potential to be like a certain player that I shall not mention. But you know who I'm talking about, or a certain winger of Leicester's golden era, if you will.
Saying that you've just done a Dave, who are you going for? Who's the better player, Lookman or Fatawu?
I'm going to give it to Fatawu because they're very close. They're very close in what they've done, and we are still only 15 games into the season, and only about 7 or 8 into his career at Leicester, because he wasn't here right at the start. I don't believe. I don't think he didn't play the first game or two. So it might be 12 games he's been here for. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think he does show a lot more of the potential side of things. So Fatawu is my final answer, Chris.
I'd agree. And did you mention Mr. Rogers before?
Yes. The new bell. I can't break that button. But yeah, I did.
Yeah. Just there we go. Okay. Boris isn't in, thank God. Go for it.
I think I nearly started making wanted posters throughout the game. I was very, very concerned. I was about to jump on the bus to Leicester and start handing them out at the King Power because he was completely missing. Couldn't get involved. Defensively, Leeds structured for one attacker, and this was another sign for me that we need to have a plan, not necessarily a plan B, but we need to have a plan to be playing with 2 strikers, because he was left high dry, and no offence to him, but he's not the most handsome chap either, so not very handsome, as they might say as a commentator. For me, look, works hard, ran at the defence, tried to put them under pressure, did Vardy things as best as he can off the ball. 4. Yeah, I think even my blue tints are on for a Vardy 4 as well, because he just did nothing and wasn't able to. But still, judging on what I saw, it's a 4 from me.
Andrew. 2. Definitely coming for you. What can I say? You gave him 4. Jordan says he was too static for one dangerous Mavididi cross in his only chance inside the box. On the ball, he was fine if he offloaded quickly, but he was out-muscled if he kept hold of it any longer. And he absolutely, totally agrees with you. And 4 as well. So from Mr. Eagle there, 4 from you both. Again, I think he just wasn't in the box enough for me, and that's where we needed him, because if you're going to have wingers, there's no point having 2 damn good wingers. Then, in fairness, we've got in Mavididi and Fatawu if we've got nobody in the box for them to play it to. The rest of the starters.
He kind of had what I would now define in my doctorate degree that I currently have. I'd say that Steffi Mavididi suffered with Harvey Barnes-aritis. I think in the first half he was very good and very threatening. And I love the fact that he's able to drive at goal and he's not afraid to have a shot. But unfortunately, with Harvey Barnes-aritis, what happens is the opposition manager decides to go and tell two players to man mark him and have a third one close by. Not like the COVID, not 6 meters apart, right next to him and all around him. So he's not in a bubble; he's in a triangle of protection by Leeds. And unfortunately, when that happened to Harvey Barnes, which is why it's called Harvey Barnes-aritis, I'm afraid, it's a very, very sorry condition to happen on the left wing for Leicester, because it happens a lot. But he was not involved in the game. He couldn't get involved in the game, and I think in the first half he had a lot of joy down that side, and he was absolutely running rings against that 17-year-old for the majority of that first half. But once the 17-year-old, and I apologise that I'm only saying that, I cannot remember his name. I'm sure PSF will tell me who I'm on about there. I think once he had a bit of support and backup, Mavididi was shut out, and because of his first half, I was going to give him a 4, but because of his first half, I am going to give him a 5. I can't go no higher, but I can't be too harsh on him because he did have spells of real quality and looked a threat on that left.
Andrew agreeing with you there. He's gone 5 for Mavididi. What did the esteemed Mr. Batwall say? He caused problems early on with dribbles in and out of the tight gaps, delivering a couple of teasing crosses into the right areas. But in the second half, he was barely involved, his threat disappearing. But like you said, I think they probably did. They doubled up on him, didn't they? Definitely. Well, we're into the substitutes, and guess who's coming? There we go. You get a double one for Mr. Iheanacho. As we share the man love, sit back and just, what are we going to say about our cows?
Well, first of all, that wasn't Clutch Iheanacho on your artwork there, but
It is now.
no, there you go. Kelechi Iheanacho had the same problem that Vardy had. Iheanacho should have been on from the start because, like you said, Chris, in that first half, Leicester were putting balls into the box, and I don't know if you've ever. Now look, I know Jamie Vardy's not exactly. He ain't too shabby with his head. He can still head a ball, and he scored a few goals with it. But if you're talking a striker that looks more like a target man, and you can kind of have him lurk around the box and waiting for crosses and take and drag defenders away with him, you wanted Iheanacho in there, and by the time he got on the pitch and came on, our wingers were written out the game. They were banged to rights. They couldn't get free. They couldn't get crosses into the box, and he just wasn't the right striker on. I think anything and everything for a change for Enzo he did was wrong. And unfortunately, that affects my love child. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to have to. Iheanacho, he gets a 4.
No!
Oh no! You can clip it, Chris. Just have it as well.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. I'm not angry, Iheanacho. I'm just very disappointed.
Well, I think I'm going to have to put a smile on your face. 4. Wow. Well, Jordan, there was a few nice moments of hold-up play and spreading the ball out wide, but when he got the ball in and around the box, his footwork was not quick enough for him to escape Leeds markers. And I think that says a lot about the Leeds defending, that they were just honest, not just in the defence, but all over. They were honest so quickly. And he got a 5. So a little bit more generous than your love child.
Leave my love child alone. Get out of his arse, Jordan. If I give him a 4, you can't go higher.
What about this man?
Again, when I saw the lineup, I was thinking, okay, he's going to have him do Ricardo's job. Maybe we're going to a 4-3-1-2 or 4-3-3. or maybe he's going 4-4-2. I don't know because I thought Chowdhury coming on, maybe he's going to mix things up. But Chowdhury was great. You know, he came on and was told to be the defensive midfielder, and he did that really well. You know, he restricted Leeds. I mean, what you can say about Chowdhury's performance is he played a part in making sure that Leeds only scored one. I mean, again, you want to scratch at positives, Chris. We still haven't conceded a goal after the 60th minute. By the skin of its teeth, but still, the 60th minute, Leicester do not concede. And I said that, didn't I? I said Leeds need to score before the 60th minute or they won't. Sod's Law jinxed it a little bit. But no, I would have liked to have seen him attack more, but that clearly wasn't what he was told to do. And I got that impression straight away that he wasn't going to be making bursting runs. So for me, I could give him a 7, I think. I'm going to give him a 7. I was thinking a 6, but no, I think he deserves a 7.
Well, Jordan put in a crunching tackle on Somerville and then robbed him of possession again moments later to infuriate the Leeds winger. He was very aggressive and that improved City. And he gets a 7, which means you've agreed on 5, which is exactly what I said. Yes.
God, he's going to... Yeah, cheers, folks. Cheers, Jordan. Means never going to hear the end of this. He's going to start making his prediction show. The how many times will Brad agree with Jordan show.
Can I just say, if I was that good at predicting the football scores this week, I'd have done it. I've got more points there than I got in the prediction league. So it's not. Whoops, a daisy. Hang on. Enzo, don't ring me when I'm on a show. Right. He's such a pain. Got to say, very, very quickly, thank you. The man of the match. Oh, Enzo. What we're going to give Enzo? I forgot about Enzo.
Oh, this isn't nice, Chris. We couldn't have done a few of these shows before, so I could give him 8s and 9s because I can tell you that it ain't close to that at all. Brendan-esque. Head scratching, confusing. You know, we've used a lot of terms and descriptions for him in his managerial performance over Leeds. Didn't make subs, and when he didn't choose the right personnel, didn't play personnel in their stronger position. Didn't think that going like for like was the way, but made 2 like for like changes. Got everything wrong, including his substitutions, which I've just said about Iheanacho. Enzo Maresca, you're getting the same number as you are letters in your first name. Just getting a 4.
Oh. Ooh, wow. I've given him a 5. Jordan
Show off.
Jordan anything because Jordan doesn't do that. So 4. Oof, God. My God. Have you not had your milk today, Brad, or what?
It's just very poor. Just it was, wasn't it, though, Chris? You can't sit here and say that...
We've won 4-0. We wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah, no, we would. We'd be giving them all 10s, and I'd be giving Ian actual 11. So it's different.
Look, Alan goes to the match every week. I think he's the way I am with Yannick and the way you are with Kelechi. I think he is with Harry, to be honest with you. It must be out of 15, his 12th man of the match. And normally I can't argue with him, but I've got to say today I do argue with him. I mean, it stands because he's the one that picks the man of the match. He's at the match. I'm only watching it on the telly. I would have gone for Ricardo. I think you would have done as well. But Alan has gone for Harry Winks.
Yeah, I would have give it to Ricardo. I think Alan needs to come out and confess that he too has a love child in Leicester, and it is the man known as Harry Winks because you know that's just how it is. But you know, sometimes I think when you've got a player that's doing so well for you previously, it's hard to look past them as a player as man of the match. Personally, I don't know if anyone else would have gone with Alan's choice. See you later, PSF.
Yeah.
And
you're always welcome.
Yeah, you might be above us by then, but that's only because the next time we see you at a decent ground, we'll be back at the King Power, and it'll be a Premier League match, and you'll be ahead of us alphabetically. Sorry, I just wanted one jibe in. Let me have the moment, all right? But yeah, I mean, normally we're sat here going, oh yeah, well, could have been 4 or 5 of us. I think Harry Winks was maybe third on that list of nominees for man of the match. But yeah, it's good. We get a different perspective from it.
PSF was gone yet, but if you're still in, my overall man of the match, we don't usually do this, but I was so impressed with him, and it's something that Carl from the Levy and Thorne podcast, he's a big Leeds fan, and he did say that this was one to watch, and my God, was he right. My overall man of the match, I've got to give it to Somerville. I think he's come on really good since he gave up singing. And but I thought he caused so many problems down that left wing for Leeds.
Yeah, he did. And again, I don't like doing it either, but I'd have to agree with you. I think, if I was to be asked for a man of the match, not just on a Leicester perspective, I would have said that Somerville really did cause us some grief. You know when they normally do these videos, Chris, where people go around with a mic and they go up to fans and say, would you swap anybody from Man U? And you're a Man City fan, and obviously Man City fans all say, no, would we egg? Yeah. And Man United fans probably ask them to swap the whole 11 around. But if you said to me it's the one person you could sign from Leeds on a performance that you've just seen, it would be Somerville. I think he looked well, he's the reason. He's one of the big standout reasons they won that game, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I have to say, I don't think he's watching because he would have said something. But Doug, I was in the Levy and Thorne podcast yesterday morning, just in the chat, and they were doing score predictions, and I actually said that Luton would beat Liverpool 2-1. I said, look at Forest and Leeds last season. And to which Doug replied, we're a different team this season, Chris. Yeah, not a lot different, Doug. Luton Town won, Liverpool won. Embarrassing.
And I tell you what, Chris, you weren't far off. Luton had the last chance of the game. I think I don't know if Alisson made a save or he hit the post, but Luton nearly did get the second. I mean, I watched the game. You got to say though, Chris, well done to the underdogs. Nobody expected little old Liverpool to go to Kenilworth Road and get a point.
I nearly didn't pick up on that.
You got to remember, they're on a shoestring budget, Liverpool. Ask Klopp. That's what he'll tell you.
Hello, to Storm the Cactus. Bit of a prickly guy, I've heard. I'm sorry, you probably get that an awful lot. I think Leeds just were better. I probably wouldn't disagree with that at all. Just one last thing, a word of warning. When you look at Burnley, played 11, won 1, drawn 1, lost 9. They've only scored 8 and conceded 27, and they're on points, joint bottom, and even United won at the weekend. Sheffield United, that is.
I was going to say, it was also a surprise that Man United won at the weekend as well. Do you remember when Luton first got promoted, and I think they played, I think their first game of the season was Brighton or something like that, and they got beat 5-1. They got beat really heavily, and imbeciles, and I will call him an imbecile. So he was a bit imbecilic in his decision. Like Garth Crooks came out and went, Luton don't belong in here. They don't deserve to be in a Premiership. They're not a Premier League side. Well, Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United are showing that they've got more of a reason to deservedly be there than them two teams at the moment. I'm sure Dan will be loving me for making this analogy, but it's just showing, isn't it? It was all sunshine and roses for about 8 months at Burnley under Vincent Kompany, and now they're owner. I mean, you talk about embarrassing moments, Chris. Burnley's Twitter feed before they played at the weekend was them asking their fans how they could help raise the atmosphere. maybe try playing better football would be a start, because when your Twitter bases, when they're asking the media team to get better atmosphere at the ground, you know you're in trouble, don't you?
Yeah, but we should take that, and it's something going back to what PSF said right at the start. We do, and I've mentioned this, I've got to say, probably every week since this, season started, was, we've had a better start than Burnley. We were more points than Burnley at this point, a higher position than Burnley at this point, and we have to look at Burnley and go, whoops, well, yeah, be careful, sort of thing. So, yeah, I do look at Burnley and use that as a warning. But well done to Luton. Talking to Liverpool, Leicester women, unfortunately, looking like the wheels are coming off. Muted, mate.
Oh, cheers. No, not really. I wasn't able to catch the first half, but I was able to watch the second half, and we were actually quite unfortunate. Look, it was a great finish that led to the winning goal for Liverpool in that sense. But again, very close, very compact, and on another day, Chris, they would have got a draw from the game, if not maybe nicked the points. They had the chances. Leicester, that certainly weren't overawed, and it's a bit of a shame to go back to back. Just after the international break, losing to Man City. But you lose to Man City, they lost tonight as well. So we just got to go again. Yeah, they lost 2-1. I think they lost 2-1 today. So yeah.
Forest.
No, I think Man City lost. Yeah, you got well confused. I know, but the Man City men's definitely won their game against Bournemouth. They didn't do a Scott Parker on them, but they tried to again this time. But no, so it's because we beat Liverpool in the cup as well, so there's maybe a bit of expectation that we'd go to Preston Park and get something off them in the league. It wasn't to be. It was a very good goal that won them the game. One of them cliche, it was a goal worthy of winning the game, to be honest with you, if you say it like that. But there was more positives than negatives from it. And again, look, last season it took Leicester 14 games to get to 7 points. The fact that we're on that after game week 4, or is it 5 now? So I'm not too worried by the defeat. I'm sure we'll bounce back.
And there will be more to come on Leicester City on LCID TV 2 with Brad. You get over there and subscribe. LUFC Lofts. You see, that's the problem when you come in very, very late and comment on something that you've no idea what you're talking about, because that is the Leicester City man of the match. And had you actually played it back before you commented, you'd have seen that we'd actually, both myself and Brad, as Leicester fans, said that the overall man of the match was probably Somerville. But look, why let the actual facts get in the way of putting a few smileys up and making yourself look like an arse? Well done, but you're welcome, LUFC Lofts. Just check your facts next time. On that note, I've got to say, I'm just going to read this out because this was a point, and this to me sums it up. And it says, great win for the championship as it breathes life into the automatic spots. The top two have been beaten by Leeds. Farke has moulded the team into winning one after all the drama at the beginning with the one-to-way Lone Stars. This is a victory for those who still believe there is loyalty. Thrilled to see Rutter get a goal after all the impressive work in the past weeks. It does keep the top of the championship open. And as I said right at the start, whoever finishes above Leeds is going to get promoted.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed looking at Leeds right now. I mean, they have got some very notable wins. They've picked up the form after the shaky start. And they're where they were expected to be, I think now. I think they're in the top 3, and all I will say to LUFC Lofts is don't get the cart in front of the horse, because you've still got Ipswich to catch before you can start looking at catching us. Because that massive FA Cup lifting win against Leicester City, congratulations, by the way, puts you carry the one, minus the games. Oh, still 11 points behind us.
And have you noticed the thing about most lots is that they're all totally empty with nothing in them?
Well, yes, very true, mate. Very true. There's still, I get it very well. Hot air, as they say.
You're welcome, mate. Welcome along to have your thoughts.
We only jest.
You did come in after we'd said and said it all. So that's all I will say is maybe just check things before you say. But nice of you to pop in. Well done on the win. You probably, like I say, deserved it overall. Brad, thank you so very much. Have a good week. Hope you can get home soon when COVID's all sorted for you. And we shall see you next Friday, is it, for the prediction? I hate to say that.
Yeah, I might suddenly become ill that day, because I think I've done a you, Chris. I've done a you and a me. Me and you are the only two to ever do it in our divisions. I think I might have got a big fat 0. I think I'm dreading to do the maths.
Who played today?
Blackburn thumped Norwich 3-1.
Oh, right. Hang on.
Don't, Chris. Don't do it to me. Let me go. End the show.
I'll get a point. I got excited when I saw 3-1. That was Ipswich Rotherham.
Oh dear, that might be the only game that can still save me from going pointless this week. Keep them in suspense, Chris. I'll do the easy maths and keep everybody else in suspense.
I don't know what you do, mate. I don't know what you do. But
I'll keep everybody in suspense. Maybe if I'm lucky.
Have a good week, and I will see you on Friday.
I'll see you then.
Take care, mate. All the best. Thanks very much to Brad, or as we like to call him, 1 Point Brad. He's gonna hate me. I'm waiting for the 2 fingers to go up from the green room, but I think I don't even get that. I get the number of points he got, which is possibly 1. And I wouldn't laugh. I'm trying to be generous and give him the 1 point, you know. Lofts, right? You've won 1 game, mate. Come on, you know. Let's reel it in. I mean, all your players were on strike at the start of the season. You know, you know. Let's face it, it was like an FA Cup win for you. If that's the highlight of your season, says a lot about Leeds. Thanks very much. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, for the debate show. We will see you then. We're talking refs. It's going to be interesting. Do you prefer the VAR ref with the Premier League or the non-VAR ref in the Championship with human error? That's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, with Kate and Dave. See you then. Take care. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.